Rafael Freeman.
The American dream. Wouldn't it be great if we could all live the American dream? People have crossed oceans, rivers, and even deserts to get a small slice of the American pie. Some have come in search for better opportunities in education. Others have looked to establish their own businesses. Me, ever since I was a little kid, I've always wanted a yacht. Now here I am in my early 20s, and still no yacht. But even though I don't have this yacht at the moment, sometimes I ask myself, how did I come to this state of yachtlessness? Because I really want one. And all the motivational speakers tell me that if I believe, if I think positive, then I can have whatever it is that my heart desires. So am I missing something? Are the motivational speakers, what they say, even true? Can we really have whatever it is that we desire and be ultimately happy? Fellow Toastmasters and honored guests, over the past year, I've come to believe that we can, that what the motivational speakers say is true. If this is the case, however, how do we get to this field of dreams anyway? Brian Tracy says that we already know. And yet, no yacht. The more I think about it, the more I think that the motivational speakers, they might be onto something. I don't know necessarily how to get a yacht right now. But deep down inside, I do think there's a notion of how to pursue the dream itself, even if I can't get the stuff right away. There's this notion of how to pursue the dream. The only thing that I have to do is figure out the direction that the dream is going to take me in. One of the things that we do as dreamers in general is always try to follow our passions and go in this direction. And sometimes they take us in wild directions. For me, it's always been figuring out the way to best go forward with any of the plans that we have. Ever since I was a kid, like you know, that I've always wanted yachts, but there are other dreams that I've had as well. The idea to speak to people, the idea to touch people at their very core, at their very heart, to reach out to see whatever it is that we share in common. So at the end of the day, I think that we all have doubts about what it is that we can do. We all have doubts about whether or not these dreams are even possible. But why is that? Is it a lack of hard work? A lack of discipline? Lack of effort? No, I think the thing that generally gets overlooked is the idea of sacrifice and risk. Because deep down, I think we all understand that along with pursuing a dream, there's a risk that we have to take and a sacrifice that we have to make. And I think for many, the sacrifice might be too big. I mean, sure, you could always argue nothing ventured, nothing gained, right? We've all heard that. But the fear of losing everything is paralyzing. And I know because I watched my partner panic last year just as we were to open our new restaurant. Miguel is a man that I've worked with for 10 years. He left everything that he's ever known from Puebla, Mexico. He risked his life and the life of his family to cross the desert into the United States. Often we think about, we share these dreams about what type of restaurant we would open together, what kind of food we do, where we open. And one day we had our opportunity to share in this dream that we had. We realized that between the two of us, we can make this business work. And the minute that we sat down together, we realized that we were on the same page in terms of the food that we wanted to do, the direction, service, everything. And the day that we were supposed to sign the lease, I mean, there I am, right? I'm in the dining room of my brand new restaurant with our would-be landlord, check in hand, waiting for my partner to arrive. But he didn't come. I mean, I for a minute, I'm hoping that he's lost in traffic. I panicked a little bit, but he never came. When he wouldn't return my phone calls, he was paralyzed by his fear. But all we really need to do to overcome this fear is just take a small step forward. Just a small step, because the hardest part has already been done. We just need to take a small step. The founding fathers of this country, they had these great ideas from John Locke and Adam Smith, and they fostered this environment that would allow us to pursue the very zenith of human potential. And they did so at great risk. It was George III was still the king. Great Britain was at its height. The British had soldiers everywhere. I mean, they had men in the American streets. They're sleeping in American homes. They're eating their food. But the early Americans, they defied the crown, didn't they? They didn't just nurture these ideas of free market and free speech and free individuals. They risked their freedom to do so. They risked their very lives to do so. And I'm not asking you to risk your life. I'm just asking you to take a much smaller risk. I'm just asking you to take a small step forward. But why take this risk anyway? Why bother? I don't really have to convince anybody in this room as to why. We all know why. I mean, I love Great Britain, and I love France, and I love Spain, but people haven't risked their lives over the last century to get to Spain. No. People risk their lives, the tired, the hungry, the poor, huddled masses. They've risked their lives to come here. People like Madeleine Albright and Albert Einstein and Alexander Graham Bell, they all left Europe to come to flourish here where ideas meet ingenuity. And I think the early Americans, they understood that if we just took the right risk, that we could indeed do something greater. So what risks will you take? Will you eke out a life of mediocrity, play it safe? Or will you follow in the footsteps of our progenitors and do something great, add to the human history? Listen, the thing is that nobody is going to get a do-over. If you don't get it right this first time around, you don't get a second chance. You already know that the hardest part has already been done. So I urge you, fellow Toastmasters, take this crucial first step. Take the risk. And I promise you that even your wildest dreams can be your reality.